Hello students, this is video number 2 where I'm going to go over the handout which for project number 2 which we were going to review in class this week and we instead met online, and so I just want to make sure we're all on the same page with this. So I have gone to our main website here under lessons, and two online lessons ago, you were asked to take a look at the materials in project number 2. So that's what we're going to talk about right now. So this is our major project, and this project is due, well, you'll be working on this project over the next several weeks. There will be a writing workshop. We come back from spring break and we have a week. We'll meet with Ken Elgunis. We'll do some more work from our book, and then we'll do an assessment exercise, and you'll do an online workshop, and then the project is due. And we start project number 3. We're a little bit constrained on time. I talked about this in my first video for today. So we kind of have to get to that final project. But in the meantime, this project is due around the 26th. There may be some flexibility in this. We'll just see how it goes. But that's the current plan. Now, the assignment itself, informative report. So the goals here, I'm going to break this down for you as clearly as I can. The goals here are to demonstrate that you understand how to conduct library type research or other types of research on a subject of your choosing. Now, the subject should, in general, have some relationship to our course material, eco-composition, ecology, but we've talked about how there's many different types of ecology, and there are many just different subject areas you could talk about, mostly a subject that relates to people and their homes, people and the way they interact with their environment. It could be a paper about the city, in some interesting way about the way that citizens interact in a city, or it could be about some ecological concept out in nature. So we have broad latitude here, but your main thing is that you want to choose a subject that you're interested in inquiring more about. You want to find information because you have to do research on this subject. The other thing is that this is a report. It's an informative report. So in general, the most important thing is to gather information and present it to your readers. In tech writing, what we do is what I call a literature review, and the students simply gather research papers and reports on a certain topic. They assemble them and they talk about these reports. For this class, I wanted us to do something a little bit different, but I like that framework where the goal, it's not to have an argument, it's not to persuade, it's not necessarily to do new research. It's combining information, pulling information on a concept or a topic. Okay, so keep that in mind. It's a report. It's not an argumentation paper. It's the kind of thing that you might actually see online or you might see in a journal somewhere. That's the goal. So the assignment language is here. This project will explore a concept, process, or thing that impacts our ecosystem, presenting information and descriptions about the subject. You see that information and descriptions, those are two key elements that we would have graded. These will be graded in this paper. How effectively have you gathered information? How well do you describe the subject? Supported with outside sources. The assignment also will introduce some research library skills and the basic elements of APA citation format. This is something that we have to do in all of the SLO2 courses. You need to have some exposure to library research. You need to be able to understand a basic citation system. In this class, we're using APA. Your primary task will be to assemble some scholarly sources. We'll talk about that in the third video. What constitutes a scholarly source? You will share and compile that information into a report. Not a reflective piece, not a short story, not a poem, not an argument paper, but a report that explains the idea or concept, or it may advocate for a specific position or approach on that subject because That's one of the approaches that's outlined in our book. Advocacy about issues related to nature. Now, this is not a hugely long paper, so you probably want to keep that in mind. But if there's a very focused ecological topic that you could take up an advocacy for, solar panels, wind energy in a particular county, going against a policy of prairie dog eradication, I don't know, anything like that. That would still allow you to pull in outside research and present information about the topic. That's basically the goal. I want to caution you about trying to write a huge advocacy paper, or what we typically call a position paper in composition, where the emphasis is more on grading your skills in argumentation. We're not doing that. If I haven't made it clear yet, the goal of this paper is to measure your skills in acquiring research and information on your topic. Okay? So, advocates for a specific position or reviews the literature on that topic or simply explores the subject creatively as a scholarly essay on the subject. So we have these nature essays that are described in our book. They're a little bit more informal, but they bring in outside research. Or a literature review. If you want to do that literature review as we do in tech writing, that's a good option. And I have lots of examples of literature review. So anyway, from Chapter 8, Chapter 9, and Chapter 10 in our textbook, we will be reviewing these various types of writing. But most importantly, we just want an excuse to bring together information, cite it, share it with the reader in some sort of fashion. Okay? Now, this is very important. It could be that some of this information is related to work you're doing in other courses. It could be that you've already written on subjects that will be interesting in regards to this topic. I am one professor on campus that has a more liberal viewpoint on this, you might say. When you turn in your work and it's already been written for another class, it will get flagged by turn it in. You will get charged with plagiarism and you will fail the course. So what we want to do, if you're using material that you've potentially submitted to Chatham State College or elsewhere, you have to just be upfront about it. You need to tell me about it. We need to figure out how we can take the previous work you've done on this topic and integrate it into what we're doing for this course. If it's a course that you're currently taking at CSC or will take in the future, and you're wondering if you can use the topic, that's another conversation. So that's the way to think about it, as we call writing across curriculum. You just need to let me know that this is what's going on, and we'll go over the sort of options of what you might be doing. If you do not fully disclose that this is material that you've already previously compiled or written, then you're going to get in trouble. Okay, paper's worth 200 points, so it's worth double what our previous paper was. It's double the length minimum requirement, 2,000 words. You need to have a title page, an abstract. It needs to follow APA format. We'll go over this in our third video and in class. You need to use at least 3 academic scholarly sources. You can use as many sources as you want, but at least 3 of them have to be academic/scholarly sources. We'll talk more about that in video number 3. And there is no appendix in our book, so I need to remove that language. But I have guides and handbooks that will help you figure out what is a scholarly source. We will do a peer review of this draft. We didn't do that with our first paper, so you will workshop each other's drafts. You'll do that online. And your final draft will be submitted online in assignments to turn it in. And your final draft will be graded with a grading rubric, which we'll talk about the week that we come back from spring break. Okay? So that's basically it. Here are the basic features. You have a lot of choice and latitude in this subject, obviously. The main goal is to compile research on something that is broadly conceived of as an ecological issue. And your approaches can include something that describe or that the paper should have the following basic features. It should describe the topic, concept, idea, or process fully to the reader. So whatever you write about, we need to have a full understanding of what it is. Or you need to explore fully and provide some advocacy for how the reader should think and respond to that issue. Or you could review literature on that, and I have several examples of literature reviews. or you explore the subject in a more open-ended essay type way that we're going to see in our book. I hope these are not too many choices. I hope it's not confusing, but it does give you a lot of options. Mostly, can you compile information in sort of a logical way and cite it? Okay. This is a report where you explain to your readers what your area of exploration is, what information ideas you're looking for, and what you've been able to find. But you're not just describing or summarizing the sources. The most important thing is the synthesis of the information, where you can offer interpretation of those sources and relate them to the information you report in your overall topic. So we want to make sure that we integrate our sources and we're using them logically for the paper. Grading criteria. Okay, this is what it all comes down to, and this is the last point I'll make on the subject. A good draft will have an effective introduction, some sort of setup. It's clear to the reader what we're doing. You will use writing and explanatory strategies or descriptions to go through the topic clearly. You will organize the subject clearly so that readers don't get lost when they read through your paper. You will have effective information and evidence from your outside research. You will integrate those sources into your information so that it's not plagiarized, everything's clearly quoted, it's cited correctly, and that you have followed the correct formatting procedures, and that you convey a point or purpose of your report by engaging the reader's interest. How are we going to do all this? So that's the basic handout. We go back to project number 2 folder here in lessons. There are several tools that have been set up for you to help you with this. One includes sample reports. I just provided 2 additional examples. For the last several years, I've been focusing mostly on technical writing, and so I don't have as many recent student examples. I have a lot of literature reviews. There's an APA model paper of a literature review that's good to look at. So we'll look at some of these materials over the next couple weeks. I uploaded today 2 student papers from the last time I taught English 135, which is the closest to this type of paper. A concept paper is what we called it in 135, where students would explain a concept. These 2 papers have been uploaded. They are not perfect papers. They did not get A's necessarily. They weren't the best papers ever, but they show how you could explore this concept. They're also formatted in MLA citation, so be aware of that. I'll keep an eye out for other examples that we might look at. The essay that I'm having you look at today from the Atlantic about the mushroom, the death cap mushroom, is a good example of this type of paper kind of project that we're doing. The other resources that are available to you here in this folder will be research and documentation resources, which is the same tool that I use in my tech writing class, with a lot of emphasis on APA, including an APA citation handbook that I've put together. These are all external web links that take you through APA. There's the APA model paper. We'll take a look at that. There's nothing in our textbook. There's no appendix. There's no handbook in our textbook about APA or citation or research or anything like that. So we'll use these resources to help us with that, and that's what I'll go over a little bit more in video number 3. So that's an overview of the paper. Then when you get a chance, watch video number 3, and we'll talk about doing library research.